animals have to learn how to navigate their environments, how to find food, how to find mates. Those are all social problems. But only human cultures seem to build over time, and that's where we transition into cultural learning. I am Francys Subiaul. I'm an associate professor of anthropology and speech language hearing sciences, and my specialization is on social and cultural learning. I'm really interested in what are the basic mechanisms of learning. So how do we go from not knowing anything to knowing a ton amount of information in the span of 2 to 3 years? And then when we look at other animals, what is it about them that's like us in this respect? I was born in Santa Clara, Cuba. I came to the United States when I was 7 years old. I don't remember myself being a particularly sciencey kid. I was certainly a very curious kid. One of the first sort of scientifically or certainly evolutionary-minded thoughts that I had or that I remember was watching Fantasia. And I remember asking my mom about this. And my mom just started telling me about this world with these animals that don't exist. And I was just fascinated by that. Many years later, when I was in high school, we learned a little bit about evolutionary psychology, how the mind is adapted to solve different kinds of problems. And I was really, really, really fascinated by that idea. The more I study kids, the more fascinated I am by them. Kids serve this beautiful model of how do we go from nothing to all of these amazing things. The work that we're doing at the Children's Museum is along the lines of characterizing how kids learn from adults and how learning, for example, different ways of learning arbitrary sequences involving actions, how that's like learning arbitrary sequence of sounds.
Ba, ba, ke, si. Good job.
We wanted to know kids that are really good at, for example, imitating how to pronounce something. Are they also good at imitating how to do a sequence of motor taps, for example? And then when we look at other animals, what is it about them that's like us in this respect? Like, what do we share with them? And then also, what's different about how we learn and how we learn from others and how we abstract and build on this information?
Hello. Hi, Francis. You brought Wally today?
Hi, Anya. We're here with Wally. Wally is an 8-year-old mutt, very cute, obviously, and he is ready to participate and do all these awesome studies. So why study dogs, and what can dogs tell us about the evolution of human intelligence? Dogs evolved in this environment full of other humans with this peculiar way of communicating with all these tools and all of these artifacts. What we have learned by studying dogs is that dogs seem to respond to humans in a way that, for example, other chimpanzees or other monkeys do not.
Wally, look. Wally, look.
The most obvious case is pointing. Now, when I do this point, if I point to something in particular, could be interpreted in at least 2 ways. It could act as a word, like look at that person, look at that object. It could also be a command, grab that, or do that, or attend to that. It could even be a request, give me that. Some animals, certainly animals in captivity, could learn to use that gesture in discriminative ways, but they don't seem to do it spontaneously like dogs. That was one of the first clues that the minds of dogs have been shaped by human socialization and human culture in a way, right, that other primate minds have not. Primates are interesting because we are primates. Primates are also super diverse. The work that I'm doing now with the bonobos, I'm extremely excited about. These are extremely special bonobos that have been language trained. So we sort of have a natural experiment here of some bonobos that have been enculturated in this very special way. They have been literally given this tool language that we know transforms thinking. In human populations, we know that different languages lead humans to, for example, perceive their world in different ways, even think in different ways. What happened to the minds of a primate that is now given this tool that could transform how they think? Do they now start thinking in human-like ways? Kids come to my lab, so I have a very large lab. My lab is doing a lot of things from studying college students to studying kids to studying now dogs. I'm teaching a class about animals, specifically primate. It's called Primate Cognition, where we're kind of exploring a lot of these questions having to do with how do we study primate minds? How do we study and compare human minds to the minds of other animals? Students hear about these different things, and so they come to me. I have an open door policy, so literally if you want to come and join the lab, you can. I'm also naturally a person that collaborates with all sorts of people. It's a real blessing to have colleagues as generous and intellectually curious as you are and willing to work with you. It's been really nice.